Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is 777 Chariot, and today I'm just going to go over kind of like a speed create of a wallpaper that I made for The Sims 4 in Sims 4 Studio. So what I'm currently doing right now is I've got my color swatches already picked out. I took those off of Pinterest. I'm going to be doing like a coastal beach house type vibe for a few wallpapers. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of just thinking about what I'm going to do. I have some shells. I wanted a shell wallpaper, so this is what I'm doing. I picked one of the shells to kind of make it a little easier on myself. What I wanted to do at first was to create a patterned or a continuous wallpaper. You're gonna see here in a little bit that I totally gave up on that. So but that's kind of like what I'm doing. So here is where I'm trying to just get a feel for the size of the shape, and I'm going to create like a stamp in GIMP. So that way it's easier for me to just overlay it on top of whatever color that I'm trying to use as like the base for the wallpapers. So I'm creating a stamp in GIMP first, and then you'll see later that I also end up creating a pattern. But that's usually what I do is I create this brush first, and then I create a pattern after I've created the brush. It seems easier for me to do it that way, so that way I can mix and match. I can make different patterns. I was trying to make a continuous pattern, but I'm trying to figure out like how big to make it, what I need to do to it. I also made this at like 2 in the morning, so I'm pretty tired. Um, and what am I doing here? Yeah, I'm starting to get frustrated because I'm trying to figure it out. Um, like how big it needs to be, or if I need to make it smaller. I'm trying to make sure that the brush isn't going to be so large that I can't resize it. Um, and here I'm just, this is what I usually do. I usually just select by color. Um, Select all of the little tiny pixels so that way I can get as much detail as I can without, just disrupting the picture. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just checking over to make sure that there's no major areas that aren't selected. Because what I'm going to do is now fill that selected area with like black. That's usually what I fill it with. And now you'll see that I have this overlay with a transparent background. That's whenever I exported it to create a brush out of it. Um, so I usually have to end up exiting out of GIMP to then get my brushes to pull up in the menu over on the side. So now what I'm doing is I'm checking for my brush, and it should be there. Yep, there it is. So now I have this stamp that I can use on anything. I don't have to go back to other projects. I can just use it whenever I want. I have a few brushes that I've made myself. So here I'm just trying to figure out how large it needs to be to fit across this whole thing. I'm trying to figure out like the size of the pattern, and then also where to place things. I'm trying to create a continuous pattern so that way whenever it's loaded into the Sims 4 Studios, it will be a seamless wallpaper. So that way there's no like tiny patterns. Uh, this turned out to be a little more difficult than I originally thought it was going to be. So you'll see me fiddle around with this a lot, like a lot. I tried so hard. This whole thing took me about 5 hours of work, just to get one wallpaper out of everything. I did get several swatches. I think I got like 22 swatches. in the end, because the other reason why I like to use the brush and use the pattern overlays is I can then select those as an overlay and change their color to be different than the actual background for the wallpaper. So that way I can end up mixing and matching and looking at different color swatches to find the best ones. This one, I just ended up making a bunch of swatches. I don't think I should have made 22 swatches. I think that was a little excessive. There's a few swatches that I like better than others. I'm just going to say that right now. So this is just one patterned wallpaper, and I did also include all of the solid colors to match the background for this pattern. And then I also made a wallpaper that's just like one solid color and then this brush over top of it. Like just the solid black, because whenever it's like zoomed out or it's transformed or distorted a little bit in order to like load it into Sims 4 Studios, it it creates a nice gradient, so it's not such a harsh contrast between the two colors. It creates like a nicer gradient whenever it gets transformed around like that a lot. So the black, whenever overlaid like with green, for instance, it'll just end up looking like a darker green. So it'll look like someone stenciled it on with like just a darker color of the background. So I do like that I did that. I don't like the pattern. Yeah, it's not really a pattern that I like. I don't like the way that it doesn't really look like shells. It looks like leaves. It does, especially the green ones. The green ones end up looking like leaves. But one of them I absolutely love because it looks like someone took old newspaper, or some sort of like paper art or what, like cut out individual shell wallpaper bits and pasted them onto the wall, and I love that look. I really do. So, yeah, there's some swatches that I really like and then some that I really don't. All of the solids I like because they end up matching. And then yeah, I am still trying to make this work, and I cannot figure it out. I could not figure it out. I was very tired. I really could not figure it out. Like, I have been rambling for almost 8 minutes now, and I am still trying to figure this out, huh? Wow. Yeah, yeah, it really did take me 8 hours. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. I was so exhausted by the end, but at least I had everything that I wanted. Um, because in here I cut that part out because it really wasn't necessary. So whenever it comes to like creating the swatches, you'll see me make like one background swatch and one like stamped swatch. Um, and then it'll just cut into Sims 4 Studios, and then I'll start loading in a bunch of swatches. Like that's what you'll see here. I did record this on Twitch, or I streamed on Twitch. All of this, so all of this is up on my channel on Twitch. So yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, it's terrible. Oh no. I really couldn't figure it out because see, this is the part that made me so mad. This was the part that I could not figure out. I absolutely couldn't figure it out. This part made me so mad. I could not make it fit, even though it looked like it was supposed to fit. Like this fit, and that makes no sense. Why is it like that? I don't understand. Like this, all these pixels are the same across. These pixels are the same across. It should equal there, but it doesn't. I don't know what the issue is here, but I was so upset. I could not, I couldn't make it work. Just no words. You'll see me just totally give up and move on eventually. But I don't know. This probably took up like a good half of my time, like 2.5 hours of me just trying to figure this part out. Just, I cannot believe that I spent this long trying to make it work. I tried though. I really did. It was going to be pretty because what I really wanted was really big conch seashells, or, at least big enough to fit across two tiles, right? And then the next two tiles would be this big conch seashell, and they would alternate. And that did not work out, but it would have been so beautiful. I would have, uh, I'm so mad that I couldn't get it to work. I'll probably figure out how to get it to work later, like later on, but this was just absolutely frustrating. See, I even tried. I gave up trying to make it perfect, and then I kind of just squished it, in there, and then, started fiddling around with trying to make it like perfect, and then I discovered that it really does not work. It's not working. Like, it does not work. It isn't gonna it isn't gonna do what I want it to. But I had them all on there. I was so ready for this. But at least I have that um brush, so that way I could try again. I can resize it. I can do different things with it, I can change the size or the color. It's really nice. See, I'm trying to make sure it's like actually half and half, and nope. It's not working. It's just okay, that little part right here, you can see it. I know you can. It's right there next to the conch on the top. The little spike, it's not okay. It's just not something that I was just doing. So I gave up. I opened up something else. I started trying to create a pattern. I made it way too large. This part of it, I made it way too big. I started trying to create this pattern so that way it would be like a certain size, and then I couldn't figure that part either. This was my like other approach, was to just make a big pattern that would repeat itself, a few times. And that did not work out either. So here we are. It's me still trying to make this work. I was so determined to make this work, and I couldn't. I was absolutely determined, and then I eventually just gave up. So, yep. I think here is where I ended up giving up. And I created it like this size. I should have done this. I should have stuck with this, because this would have been the perfect size for the pattern. Um, just for like the actual size of the entirety of the image. If I created that in a pattern, then that would have tiled across all of the walls the way I could have been kind of okay with. I could probably redo it all, but I don't want to redo it all because that was a lot of work. And I could do that too, where it tiles this way. See, that's what I was like looking at. I kind of like that. If you know, but it's too samey because of the way it the way it tiles, since this is for only like single walled, not like some of the other wallpapers in The Sims 4, where you can have a pattern stretch across 3 tiles or more. This is not something, yeah, that's not something that I'm making. I'm making something that will only tile to one tiled wall, like one single tile in the game. That's what I'm doing. Um, I eventually get, like, you see now that I did give up on making a seamless wallpaper where it just repeats a pattern across. This is like, you could tell that this is definitely like this um like this tile and then the next tile, and you can tell. You can definitely tell. I don't like that. I really, really don't like that. So here we are. I'm trying to figure this part out. Uh, I kind of like this, but whenever it tiles, all of the top ones are going to be facing the same direction, and all the bottom ones are going to be facing the same direction. And I did not like that. Um, I don't know if you'll see me pull it up in in Sims 4 Studios. However, I do that. I kind of just save it as a test to that here it is right here. I save it as a test in GIMP. Yeah, that's what it ends up looking like. You can definitely tell that's 3 tiles wide. So, I don't like the way that looks. So I open up a new one. And now here I am trying to create a better one where it's 2, cuz then it will alternate the directions for top and bottom. I should have done this, but instead of like squared, I should have done only the top, like the top half of this image that you're seeing right now. I should have only done the top part. So that way the shells would be bigger on the actual wallpaper. But I kind of liked this. But now you're gonna see what I mean whenever it turns into, like, leaves from far away. They really do look like leaves, like, kinda curled up leaves with the spikes on the edge. So they end up looking like leaves at the end. All the green swatches kinda do. And this is not what it looks like. This is not the final product. What it really does is it takes these 4, and for short wall height is technically 3 tiles just up and down. So it will be these 4 3 times, like stamped on 3 times. So that's what it looks like. And then medium wall height is 4 tiles just up and down, and tall wall height is 5 tiles just up and down. That's how you can kind of think about it whenever you're kind of like looking at the walls, and try because they don't have a grid. So whenever you're looking at the walls, you can kind of see it whenever you have a patterned wallpaper or you have like an anchor point. It's a bit easier to see. I know that there's no grid lines in the Sims 4 walls, but I mean I kind of wish there were. It would help me out, but at the same time, no. It would be harder to see also. So here I am looking at it again. Because I've already given up on my first idea and I'm about to give up on this idea too. And I kind of wish I didn't. I kind of wish I had just done like a cross. If I had done like a 1 by 2 tile instead of a, no, hold on. Yeah, a 1 by 2 tile instead of a 2 by 1 tile. Cause yeah. So I eventually give up again. And now I'm trying to size it to the actual tile size, the tile width and length. So that's what I'm doing here I created an XCF file so that way I could just pull these layers over and position them properly without having to worry about like is my brush size in the correct place, is that, so um now everything is shrunk a little bit, not for y'all, but whenever I load it in to the Sims 4 Studios, you'll see that all of the shells are now shrunk down, and these are technically on quarter tiles now. So I'm just trying to make sure it kind of just looks the same. I don't want it to look like too copy pasted. I want there to be some sort of like difference in there. here I'm turning them to fit them just a little better because I did not like how the tips of the conch shells almost touched. I thought they were way too close, and that was not going to read well. So I'm just transforming it, or just rotating it. Really, I'm just like rotating that layer, and it kept turning into a floating layer. I don't know what I was doing wrong. I do know how to use Photoshop. I'm just not willing to pay money for Photoshop, so I'm using GIMP. And I'm gonna be real, I actually really like GIMP. It's just hard to use sometimes. It really is. Sometimes I struggle hard in GIMP, but I am still a little new at it. So I'm also still new at creating um, like custom content in The Sims 4 Studios. So I've only made like two other patterns, and for this project I've made another patterned wallpaper that seems, compared to these, with like a whole range of color swatches, and also having an actual like color palette to choose the colors from, I think there is a noticeable difference in like quality. So I'm going to include it anyways because it kind of makes me think of more like a kid's room. This is going to be a beach themed like package or file. So like these beach themed wallpapers. I was looking at or I am currently working on another pattern. Since all of the solids are already included, I'm probably going to separate those and include those in its own wallpaper package, or like thumbnail, so that way whenever it's loaded in, you can go over to the solids and find the matching solids rather than it only be with these shells. Because I was thinking that more of a simple pattern instead of having these, because they're kind of, they're more, I don't know, honestly. I just wanted to make something. I so anyways, whenever it comes to the selections, I have one that kind of looks like it belongs in a child's room, and then another one that kind of looks like it belongs in a bathroom or a kitchen or as like an accent wall. These really would work great if they were striped in between. Oh, here we are. Yeah, so here I'm looking at it again. I don't know if I left it in there. Okay, yeah. So here I'm opening up a few files so that way I can have short, medium, and tall wall height. You do need separate patterns, or like separate PNG files, because that's what I have to export them as whenever it comes to actually loading them into the Sims 4 Studio. But yeah, so this is where I'm starting to actually create the files. So that's where you'll see me load in only like one of the backgrounds, because after that it was me trying to just organize and then me filling in a bunch of colors. So that's what I've done here. It may just jump cut. Yeah. So after that, that's where I, filled in a background since the pattern was already there. I did end up blurring around this because it was way too harsh of a change. Some of them do not have a blur and some of them do. It really depends on like if it was way too harsh or not. I didn't want to I didn't want it to show up in Sims 4 Studios and then me have to go back and change it. So this is one of the colors. I eventually reorganize the list of all of my layers. So I had to cut that part out. There really wasn't much going on except me just organizing layers down there in the bottom right corner. Or I can show it. I guess I didn't cut that part out. Oh my gosh. But yeah, here I am, just blurring around the edge. Yeah, I did eventually decide on. Yeah, you see how harsh that is around the edges? Yep. It just looks so much better this way. In my opinion. So that's what I did. I just blurred around all the edges, and then I created different colors for the shells, and then also different colors for the background. And I went through and I mixed and matched and then exported into PNG files, a bunch of PNG files. There were so many. Um, so then, yeah, I've already jump cut, so you don't see all of the other colors, but this is just me going through and basically saving all of them and then also changing up their actual like image size, because whenever you go into the Sims 4 Studios, it's going to stretch it back out. So I didn't want it to like stretch it extra. It just needs to be a little squished, just a little squished. That's all. Oh yeah, there's I had to check the actual size, like sizing. So I pulled for the tall wall height. So I pulled up the other one that is kind of cartoony, and I kind of don't like it. But at the same time, this one, like that one, is actually a seamless wallpaper that I did make, and I don't know how I did it. I really don't. I was trying for this so hard, and I couldn't do it. I don't know what it was, but something about these conch shells just made it to where they would not line up right. But yeah, here I am adding a bunch of swatches. It's almost a tedious process at this point. It went by very fast, and at the end you will end up seeing all of the swatches that I made. Yes, this one I like because it looks like someone cut out individual conch shells and pasted it onto the wall in this pattern. And I kind of like it, but it reminds me of flowers or leaves from far away, so it's really not my best. However, it looks better than the kids wallpaper that I made. So yep, here's a bunch of the swatches. Of course, there are solids that match. Yep, there it goes. Yeah, that dark one, the dark green, straight up looks like leaves. It does not look like how I wanted it to look. Um, but here are all the swatches. These also look like leaves. All of the green ones look like leaves, and I don't like that. But I really should probably just move all of the solid swatches into their own catalog file, so that way you can just take those and mix and match. You won't have to go to a patterned wallpaper just to get the solid one. That seems more organized, yes. But I think I should add stripes next as my next pattern. So let me know what y'all think. Leave a comment for real. But thank you. This has been 77 Chariot. Let me know what y'all think again. Leave a like, subscribe, I guess.